already primed my lids using the Smashbox 24-hour photo primer, and I also applied a piece of tape to my lower lash line to about like the edge of my eyebrow, and just so we can get a nice clean line. The first color I'm using is Silk Cream, and I'm using that on a Morphe E36 brush, and I'm just applying this shade right in my crease area in a windshield wiper motion, just going back and forth and really buffing it out. Next step, we are using the shade Butter on a Morphe M513 brush, and I'm basically doing the same thing with this shadow. I'm applying this in a back and forth motion, except I'm keeping it a little bit lower on the lash line compared to the first shade. After that, I dip about like 2 times into the shadow, and after that I go back in with the R37 just to blend those 2 colors in together. And I don't have any extra product on this R37, just whatever was left over. I'm just using that just to kind of blend those 2 colors together. Okay, now I'm gonna create a halo shape using the color Jacz, and I'm using this on a M506 brush. And I concentrate the color mainly on the inner and outer corner of the eye, so that's what kind of creates that halo shape, and just keeping that center blank. I'm not gonna put anything on the center of my eye. Okay, so now I'm taking the M5103 brush, and I don't have anything on this brush, no extra product, and I'm just blending out the Jacz shade. And make sure that you're using a very light hand in this step, because you don't want to blend that red shade out too far into the crease. You want to keep it defined to the lid area, because it'll look better that way. You don't want that redness too out into the crease. So after we blend it out, I just go back in and add a little bit more Jacz, mainly to the inner and outer corner, just to get that intensity back. And again, I go back in with the M513 brush and just lightly blend it out. And then I take an R37 and I'm blending a little bit higher into the crease, just where that line is, and just kind of diffusing that line. But again, a very light hand, don't push too hard in this step. Okay, next step is we're gonna take the color Abyss, and I'm using this on a E36 brush, and applying it just in the outer corner of the eye, kinda creating like a V shape. I go in about halfway into the crease with this color, and I just kind of blend it out. And to blend it, I use a different brush. I use a M506 brush. That's the same brush that we use to apply Jacz, but I don't have any additional product on this. I'm just blending kind of like in the outer corner and I go pretty in to like the inner corner, but you'll see in a minute I do go back in with Jacz one more time, and I just get that redness back in the inner corner. And be careful on how much Abyss you apply, because it's a very deep black dark color, so you don't want to get too much on there, so just be careful with that one. Okay, so now we're taking Jacz again, and I'm using that on a clean E36 and just applying it to the inner corner and going about halfway into the crease again to kind of connect with that black shade. And I just take an M513 again and just blend those together just in the crease. Okay, so now we are taking the shade Queen on a MAC 242 brush and popping that right in the center of the lid where I left it blank. And I'm doing little dabbing motions. This color is really pretty and it's super pigmented, so you don't need that much at all. And I didn't use any Fix Plus or nothing like that. It's just, that's how it looks, straight from the pen. After that, we are going to take Maybelline's Eye Studio Gel Liner and create a winged liner. And I'm sorry I did a terrible job recording this. Basically what I did is I drew a straight line along my lid, and then I draw a line along my lower lash line to about the corner of my eyebrow, and then I just bring it back and connect it to that line on my lid and just fill it in. Okay, now I'm using the shade Beam on a tiny MAC 222 brush and highlighting my brow bone. After that, I take the R37 again and I just blend between the shade Beam and the shade that's in my crease. Okay, so at this point I have removed the tape from my lower lash line, and now I'm applying the same gel eyeliner along my inner waterline. I also use this to tightline as well. And I'm taking the color Abyss again on a M432 brush and just smudging that along my lower lash line in a back and forth motion. After that, I take the color Jacz on a E36 and I just rub that along the lower lash line and I really smoke this color out. And I'm taking it right underneath the black. You don't want to hide that black, you want that intensity there, but just really smoke it out. Okay, after that, this is the Stila's Magnificent Metal Glitter in the shade Smoky Storm, and I'm applying that right on top of Queen. And be careful when you're applying this, try not to get it on your eyeliner, but if you do, it's okay, you can just go back in with that gel liner and just reapply it. Okay, after this we apply mascara to the lashes and we apply some fake lashes. I use the Forever 21 lashes in the number 843, but you can use whatever you have. And now continuing on to the face. First step is I'm applying primer and I'm using the Makeup Forever Smoothing Primer, the step 1. And I just use my fingers to apply this, just really push it into the skin, fill in the pores and any sort of lines. The next step is foundation. I'm also using Makeup Forever foundation. It's a stick foundation, Ultra HD. And to blend it out, I'm using a Morphe M439 brush. Okay, to conceal underneath the eyes, I am using Tarte Shape Tape Concealer, and I just use a beauty blender to blend that out. And I also use this concealer to do some cream highlighting along the center of the forehead, the chin, and on the nose, and I just use the beauty blender to blend it out. And I like to take like whatever is left over on my beauty blender and just conceal the areas that I get some redness in, which is like around the nostrils and around the mouth. I just like to conceal those areas with whatever is left over on my beauty blender. Okay, so next step I do is some cream contouring. I'm using the Anastasia Beverly Hills Cream Contour Kit in the shade Medium, and the shade that I use in the palette is called Cinnamon. And to apply this shade, I use a Sigma P88 brush. It's like a flat angled brush, so it works really nice to get the product on, to get the product on the face. And the tip of it is it's nice and angled, so it's really easy to draw straight lines along your nose to get a nice nose contour. I like to add a little at a time, just so I don't get too much product on my skin and it's not too dark. I just like to build the intensity a little bit at a time. To blend out the contour, I'm using a MAC 188 brush. It's just a dual fiber brush. And for the nose, to blend out the nose contour, I'm using a Sigma P88 brush. But I didn't really like how that brush worked to blend out the nose contour, so I just went back in with the MAC brush and just kind of buffed it out. Okay, now we're using some Laura Mercier translucent powder on a E41 brush and just setting the entire face. And to set the concealer, I am using the Kat Von D Shade and Light palette, and the shade I'm using is called Lyric. It's like that yellowy shade right in the center, and the brush I use is an E48. And I'm using this powder to conceal all, well, not to set all the areas that I've applied concealer in. After that, I'm setting my cream contour, and I'm using the shade Shadowplay, which is also in the Kat Von D palette, and I'm using a Nars Ita brush. So just kind of bronzing up the face and setting that cream in place. I like this brush a lot because it's really thin and defined, so it keeps the powder in place. It doesn't spread it out too much. So after we do some bronzing, I go back in with the shade Lyric one more time, and I just kind of carve out the cheeks and just lighten up those areas one more time. And after that, I apply some blush, and the shade I am using is called Sunbask from MAC. And the brush that I use is a MAC 137 brush. It's this really soft brush, so it really helps to blend out that blush. It doesn't leave any patches. And to highlight, we are gonna use Champagne Pop by Becca Cosmetics, and I'm using a Morphe M510 brush to highlight. Okay, now to do the brows, I am using the Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Definer in the shade Chocolate, and I like to draw the lower brow line first and then do the top and just fill in the middle. And when I'm doing this, I'm using tiny little strokes just to fill in. Especially when I'm at the beginning of the brow, I'm using a very light hand and doing tiny little strokes just to kind of mimic what the hairs look like. When you're at the end of the brow, you can push a little bit harder, but if in the beginning, just do a very light hand. And just comb it through with the spoolie on the end. It helps to blend out the product and just move it around. Okay, and now we're going to set with the Anastasia Beverly Hills Clear Brow Gel. After that, we're going to do the lips, and the lip liner I used here is the Nars lip liner. I believe the shade is Lanicky, and it was fine to like line the lips just around the edges, but when I started filling it in, it just wasn't smooth enough. I guess maybe my lips were just a little bit too chapped, but it didn't work out that nice, but that's okay. And the lipstick I'm using is Anastasia Beverly Hills Liquid Lipstick in the shade Seraphine. And after that, we are finished. You can just set your makeup with some setting spray. I like to use the Nars the Urban Decay All Nighter Spray. And this is the final look, guys. I hope you liked it. Thanks for tuning in.